All right. So first up, we have Ben's weekly review.
Well, let's see what we've got for you here. First of all, it's extremely exciting week 3 in the NFL. Again, and I believe I mentioned this last week, there have been some surprises. And in my opinion, some of the biggest surprises have been some of the defenses that were expected at the beginning of the season to be really, really strong, but have turned out to be not so strong. Some of them, in fact, are like Swiss cheese. It's crazy. I see some that are emerging that weren't expected to emerge, and I see some that may be getting themselves together in the coming weeks. But here we go with week 3. So we're going to start off with the Thursday night game. On Thursday night, the Carolina Panthers went down to play the Houston Texans. Carolina Panthers ended up winning the game 24-9. The Panthers are now 3-0. And even though they only played the Jets, the Saints, and the Texans, which I guess of those 3, maybe some folks would say that the Saints were somewhat competitive, they're looking pretty impressive to me. I believe that they are. They're one of those defenses that I believe is an emerging defense that a lot of people weren't really looking at the beginning of the season. Sam Darnold seems to have turned his career around since coming over from the Jets. Against the Texans, he completed 23 of 34 passes for 304 yards, but he didn't throw any touchdowns. But fear not. He scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. This guy's having a really good early season. Sam Darnold, a guy that a lot of people I know in fantasy weren't paying any attention to. His number 1 receiver is DJ Moore. He caught 8 balls for 126 yards. And rookie running back Chuba Hubbard. Some people call him Chuba, some people call him Chubba. I'm going to call him Chuba because there's only one B in his name. Taking over for Christian McCaffrey. He looks pretty good. He looks like a good pickup in fantasy, in fact, since McCaffrey will probably be out for at least another 3 or 4 weeks. I talked about the fantasy worthiness of their defense weeks ago, as I mentioned. So in that respect, if you're playing fantasy, I'd say you better go out and grab them if they're still available. Most fantasy sites have them ranked as a top 5 defense.
You notice, did you notice how they did not put him on injured reserve?
Yes, because
kind of a smart move if you want to keep yourself open for him to come back early.
Yes,
but it also shows how much they value him. Like, we'll take you back. We're not even going to risk you knowing you won't be out here for 3 weeks.
Absolutely. The guy's a playmaker on the ground and through the air. They're going to miss him. Hopefully Chuba Hubbard can hold things down for them until he gets back. But yes, right now, most prognosticators are saying that he should be back within the next 4 weeks or the next 4 games. So we shall see. Next up, the Washington football team rolled into Buffalo, New York to play the Bills. Not good. Mainly because, well, let me put it this way. I'm not calling the Washington defense vaunted anymore. Remember we kicked that word around last week? The vaunted defense, the vaunted front 7. No more. The Washington football team's defense was expected to be awesome this year, and they are anything but. They got completely dismantled by Josh Allen. Yeah, Mr. Inaccurate Josh Allen, who threw 4 touchdown passes, ran 4 touchdowns, had 0 sacks, 0 turnovers. Washington football team, vaunted front 7. Oh, I said I wasn't going to call them that anymore. 0 sacks, y'all? Really? Come on, man. With Stephon Diggs, Beasley, now Emmanuel Sanders is back. Emmanuel Sanders caught 2 TD passes. Josh can hurt just about any secondary in a whole bunch of ways. Here's a fantasy note also. Their tight end is starting to emerge. That's Dawson Knox. So if you need a tight end, or say you have a good tight end already starting, take a look at his bye week, see if you need a second tight end. Dawson Knox might be your man.
Dawson Knox gets left out of the conversation a lot, but I've
He
seen him do
does.
some good stuff. I've seen him dominate some games. And let me ask you a question. Emmanuel Sanders, right?
Yeah.
How
Yes.
did my Niners let him go? Why? I mean, don't answer that question.
How did the Saints let him go? The Saints are sorry they let him go too.
Okay.
Look at their receiving core now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But I think he's a great fit up there in Buffalo. Because Beasley's is a possession guy. Diggs is the big play guy. Sanders is kind of the in-between. He can hurt you here and there, as he did last week when he scored 2 touchdowns. I believe both of them were red zone throws. So, they got a nice thing going up there in Buffalo. Next up, Chicago Bears roll into the Cleveland Browns. Not good for the Bears. The Bears are a mess on offense. It could be about to get worse, too. People have been calling for Justin Fields to take over for Andy Dalton, the quarterback, and they finally got their wish. It was a disaster. Fields got sacked 9 times, ladies and gentlemen, 9 times, and came out of it with a hand injury. So I guess Nick Foles is on deck. Woo-hoo, Nick Foles.
I actually was listening. I'm more confused because I'm not sure. It did not sound to me like the coach was saying Nick Foles was on deck.
He's not going to say that. That's part of the mess. Okay? I believe that the whole idea was for Andy Dalton to just hold it down, and they were waiting for him to either get injured or to really, really stink, and then they were going to come with Fields. Foles is an afterthought. But then it happened. Dalton got injured. They put Fields in there, and he got destroyed. Now he's got a hand injury. Now, I don't know how bad it is. I think right now they're saying he's questionable for the game this week. It depends on how he practices this week to see if he's going to play or not. If he can't play, they have no choice. They have to go with Nick Foles. Dalton's still down. So that's where they're at right now.
I have to assume Nick Foles is a better option.
Not necessarily. If Justin Fields took 9 sacks, what do you think Foles is going to do?
Get rid of the ball real quick and know where to go right away.
That is his only chance.
That'll do it. That'll do it. That'll do it. I'm watching these guys do that all day. But I understand, the lure of Fields. And if Foles can't do it, why is he there?
Well, here's the problem. Because he's third string, he's a backup. Okay? They brought Dalton in to start the season. They drafted Justin Fields to be the quarterback of the future, the near future. Foles is just the third guy. They're not expecting nothing great out of him.
We have conversation, but I'm not going to hold it up for that. What's up next?
Well, let's move on to the Browns because they did win the game pretty handily. Obviously, their defense played really well. They got 9 sacks. Baker Mayfield doesn't look really great, but offensively, the Browns have been pretty consistent, even with a bunch of injuries and underachieving by their receiver core. That's been really hard on them, especially when Landry went down. But OBJ is back. Odell Beckham is back. He's back. He looked pretty decent. He caught 5 out of 9 catches, or had 5 catches out of 9 targets. He
all one-handed behind his head?
No. He did ring up a nice 77 yards, which was good. He wasn't able to find the end zone, but that's okay. Obviously, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to continue to lean, are going to continue to keep the running game going. And the team is going to lean on those 2 guys in the running game and their really strong pass rush. Their secondary isn't great, but their pass rush is really, really heating up. So that's going to make them a tough game, no matter who they play. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens go up to Detroit to play the Lions. They end up winning the game 19-17. This was a much tougher game for the Ravens than I believe people thought it would be. I'm sure it's a lot tougher than the Ravens expected it to be. The Lions defense gave a sneaky good effort. against the Ravens, and they almost pulled out the win thanks to three dropped touchdown passes by Marquise, don't call him Hollywood anymore, Brown. Sad.
But who said to watch out for them Lions? Who said those Lions are going to be spunky?
You did say that. Yes, I must give you credit when you said watch out for the Lions. I don't think they're that scary, but they did sure enough sneak up on the Ravens. Now, Baltimore usually has a dependable run game. Seems to be in a bit of disarray right now. I don't think they really know who to trust between Latavius Murray and Tyson Williams. But the one person they know they can trust is Lamar Jackson. Unfortunately, if they lean too hard on Lamar in the run game, which you know they use him on design runs, which I know you don't like particularly, I think it takes away from his passing. And it also doesn't give any of the running backs a chance to really get in rhythm. You got to give these guys carries. If you're going to be a run-centric team, your running backs have to be a big part of that and should be a bigger part of it than your quarterback. But, that's something we'll be discussing for a long time. It could be a problem going forward for the Ravens, but they got the win on an NFL record 66-yard field goal by Justin Tucker. He also made another one that was 50-plus yards during the game, and he was 4 out of 5 total. So Justin Tucker right now looks like the number 1 kicker in the NFL, and he now has the NFL record for the longest field goal ever.
It's 2 records if you consider it the longest doink. Does it doink?
Yeah, it was a doink. It was a doink. It doinked off the crossbar, though. Doinked off the crossbar and went in. It's the ones that doink off the uprights that are dangerous. Because they seem to fly to the side. But the one off the crossbar going in that direction, if you're lucky, which I'm sure he was, it went across.
The football bounces in weird ways.
Yeah, man. That's that crazy oblong ball. So next up, Indianapolis Colts, who are beginning to struggle, had to go down to Tennessee to play the Titans. They ended up losing the game 25-16. Titans might be in a little bit of trouble because A.J. Brown, tried to go, but he couldn't. His 2 surgically repaired knees are starting to give him trouble. Those soft tissue injuries are tough. You start to wonder now, did he come back a little bit too soon? I know he didn't play any preseason games that I can remember, and I thought they took pretty good care of him during camp. But his knees are starting to bother him again. That's a problem. Julio Jones barely played in the second half of the game. I heard little rumors of load management for Julio Jones. Are you kidding me? Load management? Ay, caramba. Anyway, Ryan Tannehill still exploited another so-called good defense, throwing for 3 touchdowns and running for 56 yards. Yes, Ryan Tannehill ran for 56 yards. Now, he did throw 2 interceptions. One of them went off of a receiver's hands, which ultimately killed a red zone chance for Derrick Henry. But the top running back in the league had 31 total touches. He brutalized the Indianapolis defense for 144 total yards. Yes, everybody out there, every defense in the NFL, your worst nightmare has come true. Derrick Henry does not only just run the ball, he can now really catch the ball really well, and they're feeding it to him. That makes him even more dangerous.
Nothing like seeing Derrick Henry coming downfield on the wing. You wear
in wide open space.
You wear 185 soaking wet.
It's crazy because he's hitting the holes really well right now. As the season goes on, we'll see how good a shape he's in, but I expect him to finish strong like he did last year. But when he gets the ball out in space, tucks it away, turns upfield, and starts running, that's when he's really, really dangerous. And that's where he usually encounters one-on-one attempts at tackling him. And you're going to see a lot of guys getting blasted, man. A lot of guys getting blasted. For the Colts,
making some business decisions.
I'm telling you, and if they don't, it's going to be bad business for them. Carson Wentz did what he could. Both ankles are gimpy. He looked terrible in the pocket. He got sacked twice and probably would have got sacked more, but he threw so many balls in the dirt and sailed so many over receivers' heads and out of bounds. That was obviously just in an attempt to stay alive and not get hit. Yeah, Colts are in a little bit of trouble. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers rolled into Kansas City and pulled off the upset. I called for the upset. I got the upset. LA Chargers 30, Kansas City Chiefs 24. If you haven't figured it out yet, the Chiefs are challenged on defense and their O-line is struggling. Remember that. If they don't do something about it soon, all these predictions about the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl are going to start looking really, really shaky. I will give the O-line credit for helping Clyde Edwards-Helaire, though. He was able to grind out 100 yards on 17 carries, but they didn't do Patrick Mahomes any favors. The Chargers defense, another emerging defense, racked up 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and recovered 2 fumbles. Look out for the Chargers defense. Meanwhile, the improving Chargers offensive line kept Justin Herbert clean. They only gave up 1 sack, and Herbert lit the Chiefs secondary up. 281 yards, 4 touchdown passes. The Chargers are a handful for anybody.
Hey, Ben, 2 things I
Yes.
saw in that game. Number one of those interceptions that Mahomes had was one of those no-look throwback, right? The guy was wide open. It just went off of his hands.
Yeah.
You know, and it's even surprising how much velocity it had, considering that the awkward angle that he threw it to him. Had he caught that, it'd been one of the great, highlights in the game, and that would have been a highlight big time.
Yeah, we marvel.
Huh?
We marvel at some of these throws that this guy makes over his head, left-handed, no look, behind his back, and all this stuff. But they're not miraculous if they don't catch him. I mean, he obviously can get it there, but
we saw that in the Super Bowl, right?
Exactly.
Getting it there.
Exactly.
But
when you think about it, it's a dangerous way to live, though. It's a dangerous way to live. Even if you're on target, mixing off-platform throws with velocity sometimes is not the best formula, especially when you do that no-look stuff. You catch people by surprise, ball goes off their hands, it's a pick, you got problems. So,
that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say is Justin Herbert is looking more and more like an anomaly as a rookie quarterback who is having success.
He's a second-year quarterback now who has had success, and his success is continuing.
It's continuing, but again, just the concept of a rookie. Yeah, last year he was a rookie. This is his second year. But as we're looking more and more at the rookies who are getting a chance to play, he really looks like he's head and shoulders above all of the other first or maybe even second year, if you include Hurts as a second year or Love as a second year. He looks like he's established himself as really a step above.
You could probably safely say that Hurts is the closest second-year guy to being an actual rookie in the sense that he didn't start that many games last year. But there's no rookie quarterbacks in this class that's anywhere near having the type of rookie year that Herbert had. Not even close. This guy hit the ground running right out of the locker room after somebody tapped him on the back and said, "Oh, by the way, bro, you're starting." and had no first team reps in practice that week. You kidding me?
It's more, that's what I'm saying. It's as we look at these rookie quarterbacks, what he did seems that much more amazing to me.
No, he's making them all look really bad. That's for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Okay.
All right. Next up, And I thought this game would be a little bit better than it was. New Orleans Saints 28, New England Patriots 13. What happened to the New England defense? That was another defense that was supposed to be pretty good this year. I don't know. But I think most of their problems look like they were on offense. Rookie quarterback Mac Jones was forced to throw the ball 51 times. That is far too many passes for a rookie quarterback on an okay offense. Let's put it that way, since we just talked about Herbert, who's obviously head and shoulders over these guys as far as, the production that he put out right away. This guy had to throw the ball 51 times. What's worse, he only completed 30 of them. He only had one touchdown, and he threw 3 interceptions, and one of them was a pick six. The Patriots' inefficiency gave the Saints great field position several times, allowing Jameis Winston to not have to work very hard. And believe me, I'm sure Sean Payton does not want Jameis Winston to have to work so hard, because their offense is like put together with string and bubble gum right now. So the worst thing you can do when you play the Saints is give them field position, because that's where Jameis feels safe, and that's where he works at the best. Same thing happened in the first game against the Packers. He easily threw for a nice, underwhelming 128 yards, but he threw for 2 touchdowns, so he got the job done. Famous Jameis, what can I say? Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. They went up to MetLife to play my team, the New York Giants. This is a game I just knew we were going to win. We lost the game 17-14. Now, I think, let's see, this was a 3-point loss. I think we've got a 1-point loss or a 1-touchdown loss. I'm staying optimistic because I believe that the Giants are going to pull out some wins this year. I really, really do. Things are starting to shape up. They're just shaping up really slowly. Somebody's head is going to roll. If it's not the head coach, it's going to be the GM or both of them if they don't start winning some games. But
they're averaging -6 in the net points per game over those 3 games. So
yeah, it's awful. It's bad enough losing. It's even worse losing games like that, where you have mistakes and things like of that nature, and the games are so winnable, and somehow you figure out a way to piss it away. It's just terrible. But we're just not really good on either side of the ball. But as I spoke about defenses before, the defense really has me disappointed. I really expected them to be better, especially on the back end, and it's just not happening. I knew Daniel Jones was going to have issues with the offensive line not being great, especially in pass protection. And I knew it would take Saquon a few games to get his legs under him. But I expected the secondary to be a lot more efficient than they are. They're just giving up too much yardage and too many big plays. All is not lost. With a 1-point loss to Washington, that's what it was in week 2. They lost to Washington by 1 point, and this game was a 3-point loss. It looks like things could get better. I mean, we got nowhere else to go but up. Unfortunately, the schedule gets a little bit tougher in the next few weeks. But another plus was Saquon did show some signs of life. He had 91 total yards, and he did score a touchdown. So that's pretty good. 91 total yards. Wasn't 91 yards rushing. I'd prefer that. But 91 total, and he found the end zone. So that's a big deal for Saquon Barkley.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
The Giants have given up 74 points. Guess what team they're tied with at 74 points? My Niners.
Yeah, well, so you feel my pain.
I feel your pain.
You feel my pain. And my thing is, your offensive line is far better than mine. So at least you have an opportunity to put points on the board and fight for wins. I'm really struggling, but what are you gonna do? Another upset I think I picked was the Cincinnati Bengals going into Three Rivers to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is odd to say this, but the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-10. Wow, what a game. The Steelers are also a mess on both sides of the ball. Probably, I believe, they're more of a mess than most people think. But I'm telling you, in the weeks to come, you're going to see some bad football coming out of Pittsburgh. I know some people are going to be surprised at me saying that, but I think it's going to bear itself out, especially defensively. They only have 5 total sacks so far this season, 3 games, 5 total sacks, and they've only gotten 2 turnovers. That's not good. And when we go over the rankings, that's going to bear itself out. When you go over the rankings, that's going to have them down pretty low.
What's T.J. Watt's status?
Who?
T.J. Watt.
I don't know his exact status right now. I did not look that up. They didn't put him on IR, I don't think.
But he's not playing right now, right?
He's not playing right now. And he
take him off that defense, and that defense looks like it loses about 30%.
He makes a big difference, but their secondary looks awful. I mean, obviously, you need a pass rush to help your secondary out, but he's only one guy, man. These cats are a mess. Now, I'm sure he'll make somewhat of a difference. He's a guy that
What about the safety that came from the Dolphins who was such a terror?
He ain't doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
He ain't doing nothing.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Big Ben's doing his best. He threw for 318 yards, but he was extremely inefficient. So that's not good. He went 38 of 58. That's pretty bad. And out of all that yardage, he only threw 1 touchdown pass and 2 interceptions. Not good, Big Ben, not good. He's not moving well. He looks old. He looks like he really aged. I'm thinking, okay, last year he was coming off the elbow surgery. He looked pretty good, but you could tell near the end of the season, the elbow was still kind of bothering him. So I said, give him another year. He should be good. They were talking about he lost weight and he looked all great and everything. Dude looks old, man. He looks old. And on top of that, he had to throw the ball 58 times because they really can't run the ball. Number 1 pick, Naji Harris, was supposed to be the answer to their running game woes. So far, he hasn't been. I mean, he's not bad. You can obviously see the potential, but they're not getting it done. So I got to put that on the offensive line.
I'm really starting to lean toward these teams that have 2 good running backs as opposed to 1 great running back.
I understand that, but you got to remember the Pittsburgh.
Derrick Henry might be the only exception to that rule because he's like 2 people.
I get that, but you got to remember some of these teams' philosophies are different. Although a lot of teams are going to committees, and although a lot of teams are trying their best to get 2 efficient backs or 1 really good back and a pretty good efficient back, the Titans' philosophy, as well as the Steelers' philosophy, is to have 1 bell cow back and maybe somebody that can fill in for the guy if he gets nicked up. That's how they do. That's their philosophy. That's how they play ball. Connor was that guy. When Connor couldn't do it anymore and they let him go, they drafted Naji Harris high to become that guy. And he can still be that guy. I can see the potential in the way that he runs, but the offensive line is not well. On top of the offensive line not being well, the receiver core that we talked about, the young receiver core that was supposed to be so great and was supposed to extend Big Ben's career, they're all banged up. Deontay Johnson's out. Juju went down during the game with a rib injury. Chase Claypool is limping in and out of the game. He did finish the game, but he limped out, went back in, limped back out, went back in. It's crazy. Now, here's the great thing about Nachi Harris. He can catch. So guess what? With all the receivers down, he grabbed 14 passes for 102 yards in this game.
Wow.
So Naji Harris.
So that's 102 of Ben's 300 yards.
Yes.
A third of it went to
a running back.
And that's what people are saying. Like he's throwing a lot of little short stuff right now.
Yes. But Naji Harris can produce. So if they get the O-line together, Naji Harris is going to be a beast for years to come. They picked the right guy. It's just that things just aren't right now, especially with the O-line. Excuse me. Meanwhile, there's joy in Cincinnati. I'm sure the Cincinnati fans are going nuts over this they've taken a lot of beatings from the Steelers over the years. So this had to be a really satisfying win. Joe Mixon, for you fantasy people out there, and I'm sure he's not available in most leagues. Somebody's got him, but he's been pretty productive so far this season. He put up 90 yards on 18 carries in this one. If the Bengals can keep moving the ball on the ground and keep Joe Burrow upright, they may be on to something. I really think that the better Joe Mixon runs, the less chance of Joe Burrow going down with another injury like he did last year. And the less he gets sacked and hit, the better he is passing the ball. Rookie wideout Jamar Chase, the guy who during camp said he was having trouble catching the ball because it didn't have a stripe on it like the college ball. I was a little worried about him after he made those statements, but trust me, this guy's becoming a star. He scored in all 3 games so far this season, and he had 2 TDs in this one. Tyler Boyd scored in this game also. He remains pretty solid, and the receiving core is going to be much better when T. Higgins comes back. I'm expecting him to come back this week, but I'll have to check and see how his practice schedule goes. I didn't see if he practiced today or not. If he got in a limited session today and he can practice in full tomorrow or Friday, he should be a go. So Cincinnati, again, looking pretty good.
You know, I did not include Joe Burrow in that list of rookie quarterbacks who actually looked pretty good.
Yeah. And he, you know, he went down with an injury. I forget if it was early or mid-season. But, of that bunch, Joe Burrow did pretty well. But he was in Herbert's class.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, still better than what we've seen out of these guys this year. But what are you going to do? Speaking of these guys this year, Mr. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick overall, took the Jaguars down to Arizona and got mollywopped 31-19. Poor Trevor Lawrence. Remember we were talking about poor Tyrod Taylor. We feel sorry for Tyrod. You want to feel sorry for somebody? Feel sorry for Trevor Lawrence. He threw a touchdown pass in the second quarter and took a 13-7 lead into the locker room. Urban Meyer must have been jumping for joy. He probably gave the greatest halftime speech he's given since he's been in the NFL. In the second half, the Cardinals hung 24 on him, and they won the game going away. No defense, bro. No defense. Rifle arm, Colin Murray.
Defense for. Wait a minute. No, that's not solid. That's down there. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the Jets. You're talking about the Jaguars. Yeah.
Well, there's no defense with the Jets either, but we'll get to them later.
All right. We said rookie coach for the Jaguars, rookie quarterback, rookie coach, and we didn't even name the defensive coordinator. So,
yeah, well, highly touted rookie coach, number 1 pick overall rookie quarterback. Okay, so they get no slack.
They get no slack.
Meanwhile, Colin Murray had another stellar day. I know you like Colin Murray. You don't want to say you do because he's in your division. But Colin Murray is rocking out, brother. He's rocking out through the air and on the ground. Now, he did throw an interception in this game, and he didn't throw for any touchdowns. But he was 28 of 34 for 360 yards, 16 yards. That's nothing to sneeze at. And he ran in his 3rd rushing touchdown of the season.
So
Colin Murray can hurt you.
34 passes. Wow.
Yeah. 28 out of 34, 316, and a rushing touchdown. So he can hurt you any way you want. Here's a fantasy note. Talked about James Conner when he was with the Steelers. Steelers let him go. He looked washed up. But guess what? He seems to be coming back. He had a pair of touchdowns. Both of them were red zone runs, probably from 5 yards in. Not that big a deal, and he's not getting a lot of yardage. They're basically going to Edmonds as the number 1 back. But James Conner looks like he's carving out a little role as a red zone guy. So if he does that, he could vulture some touchdowns and he could become a meaningful fantasy football player.
All righty. Fantasy alert.
Fantasy alert. Up next, The New York Jets, the hapless New York Jets, had to go to Mile High and play the Denver Broncos. They got stomped 26-0, a shutout. I've been loving the Denver defense since the season started, and this shutout win, even though it was against the Jets, was still impressive. Listen to this. They had 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 6 tackles for loss, 3 3-and-outs, and 2 stops on 4th down. No matter what the Jets tried to do, there was nothing they could do. It's a shame. Now, people might say, well, Denver, they're going to be okay. I think their defense is all right, but it was the Jets. I don't care. Remember our old coach when we played for the Jaguars, George Robinson?
George, yeah.
Remember what he used to say? If we played a weak team, he said, kill a gnat with a sledgehammer.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I remember that, man. When he didn't want us to have a letdown because we were playing a team that we knew we were better than, he would say, kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. That's what the Broncos did. Offensively, Teddy Two Gloves, I love that name. Teddy Two Gloves didn't have to do much. Melvin Gordon and rookie running back Javonte Williams carried the ball 30 times between them, and they both scored touchdowns. Broncos have a nice attack, a nice balanced attack on offense, and what looks like it could be a pretty devastating defense. I think I said it last week. I'll say it again. Look out for the Denver Broncos.
I will say this much. Again, I'm the Madden guy. You're the fantasy guy. I was playing, I think I mentioned to you, I was playing the Broncos. And I have this comeback that I've got pretty much well timed.
Okay.
Who's the junior in their defensive backfield? The guy, Asante Samuel Jr.
Asante Samuel Jr., yeah.
Man, I threw it over that side, and I knew my man had it, except that Asante Jr. was all of a sudden running down the sideline with him. Who is that guy? It's like, it was so quick. It was so quick. So I'm like, okay. So, yeah, he's even modeled pretty nicely on the game there. That's no joke on that corner over there.
That's good. That's good. Hey, his pop was a ball hawk, so he got it well. Bloodlines. Now, this game was a weird one. So Miami goes to SoFi. SoFi, that's the name of the stadium, right? Las Vegas?
I forget. It's SoFi. Which one? One's in Vegas and one's in the new one.
One's in LA. I think SoFi might be the one in LA. But anyway, I'm going to get all these stadium names down. But Miami traveled out to Vegas to play the Raiders. This was a weird game, man. The Raiders ended up winning 31-28. I just found that this game was kind of hard to watch. It was a goofy game. Let me see if I can kind of explain it the right way without it probably sound even weirder by the way I'm talking about it. But first of all, Tua is out. Backup quarterback from Miami is Jacoby Brissett. We've seen Jacoby Brissett before, but let's face it, he's a career backup. And I don't think he's had to start a game in quite a while. So he wasn't that impressive at all. But the Dolphins did jump out to a 14-0 lead with a running touchdown by Malcolm Brown. And I believe they got a pick six. One of the linebackers picked off the ball and ran it in for a touchdown. After that, they did absolutely nothing in the second and third quarters. So they were up 14-0 in the first quarter, did absolutely no scoring in the second and the third quarter. The Raiders come roaring back in the second quarter and into the second half, basically on the arm of Derek Carr. He threw for 380 yards, 2 touchdowns. But somehow the Dolphins clawed their way back in the fourth quarter, basically with a field goal, a scrambling touchdown run by Brissett, and then Brissett threw a 2-point conversion to Jalen Waddle, rookie wide receiver. Next thing you know, they're forcing overtime. Now, the overtime gets crazy too. The Raiders are able to march down. They score first, but they score with a field goal. So obviously with the new overtime rules, if you score a touchdown, it's over. If you don't score a touchdown, you kick a field goal, the other team has a chance. Dolphins get the ball, put together enough of a drive to drive down. Jason Sanders, their kicker, kicks a field goal. It's 3-3. Now it becomes sudden death. The next score wins. Raiders get the ball, drive down, get close enough for Daniel Carlson, their kicker, to convert a field goal, and the Raiders win. The Raiders are now 3-0. Watch out for the Raiders. Crazy good offense, even with a bunch of so-called, quote-unquote, no-name receivers, except for Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow is pretty good. Jalen Ruggs is probably having his best season ever. Jacobs is hurt at running back, but they came out with, what's his name? Peyton, the guy, he ripped. He used to play for Washington. Peyton Barber.
Okay, yeah.
He ripped the Dolphins for a couple of big runs. I forget how much yardage he had. I didn't copy that down. He had a really nice game. In fact, at the end of the game, John Gruden said, I barely know who that guy is, but I gave him a big hug and a game ball. Like he just got there.
Wow.
That was crazy. Okay, next up.
Let me mention real quick. Is Allegiant Stadium.
There you go, Allegiant Stadium.
All right, and I want to mention, just happened when I looked it up real quick. November 6th, 2021, the Rolling Stones No Filter Tour coming into Allegiant Stadium. How old are the Stones?
Yeesh. I bet they'll probably fill the place up too.
I'd go.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
If I just happen to be in Vegas, I'll be like, yeah, I'll go to the Stones.
Hey. So next up, my intriguing game of the week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers roll into SoFi to play the LA Rams. My daughter's upset. She's a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. The LA Rams handed them their heads 34-24. They did not like it. But here's the deal. Both these teams are definitely Super Bowl contenders. Both these teams came into this game 2-0. The Rams had high-scoring wins over the Bears, the Colts. The Buccaneers had a couple of high-scoring wins over the Cowboys and the Falcons. Now, you might look at both of those wins for both of those teams and say, not that big a deal. Both offenses are straight up loaded, though. But both defenses have some cracks. Both these defenses have some cracks. The Bucs have been dealing with their defensive issues by simply having Tom Brady turn loose and outscore the other team. It would have been cool. Yeah, right. I had a name in my head and I was trying to get it. Remember Dikembe Mutombo?
Basketball?
Yes. What would have been cool was to see Matt Stafford give him the old finger wag. No. You're not outscoring me, buddy. He shredded Tampa's secondary for 373 yards on 27 of 38 passing and threw 4 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford. Thank God you're out of Detroit, right, buddy? Way to go. Tom Brady tried to hang in there. He ultimately threw 55 passes, which it may or may not be a problem if they don't fix their defense, especially the secondary. But he only completed 41 of the 55 passes, and he only threw for 1 touchdown. Not good enough, bro. Not good enough. Could be trouble in Tampa Bay. I don't know. I don't want to say it just yet, but I guess I just kind of said it. So let's see what happens.
This was also my intriguing game of the week.
Okay.
So I went back and I rewatched it. And it was interesting that in the first quarter, neither team could really get on track. They were not operating efficiently.
Yeah, they were like throwing body blows.
Yeah, they were off. They were off here, off there, off there. Matthew Stafford was off in his passing. you know. But Sony Michel, do you have his stats there for rushing? Because they were giving the Bucs a steady dose of Sony Michel, and I think it helped open up the passing game. Cooper Kupp.
Yep. Well, that's why they brought Sony Michel there. So, you know, when Cam Akers went down early, they were left with only Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson had previously been a part-time starter / third down back. So they knew they needed insurance. When the Patriots let Sony Michel go, they quickly snapped him up. But people were questioning whether Michel could actually beat Henderson out as the starter or be a third down back for him, because Sony Michel doesn't catch the ball well, or at least hasn't been used to catch the ball. If I remember correctly, he did have a couple receptions in this game, as well as actually running really, really well behind their offensive line. So he's come right in, learned the plays, and gotten in sync with the offensive line really quickly. And that's important to have that rapport between a running back and his offensive line. So they seem to have mastered that pretty well. When Henderson comes back, that's going to be a really nice 1-2 punch, probably better than most people suspected.
He missed Desean Jackson a few times before he hit big. And the one big time, the safety fell down. And Desean Jackson
he probably was scared.
And could be. But Desean Jackson is funny because he's running in for the touchdown. And remember the one time when he was with, the Eagles, I guess, and he was, instead of running right on into the end zone, he starts running parallel.
Yeah, he runs parallel to the goal line before he goes. That's like his little signature move.
He's still doing that stuff, man.
Yeah. That's the equivalent to Tyreek Hill with the peace sign.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he throws up the peace sign because he knows you can't catch him. And Desean runs parallel to the goal line when he knows nobody can catch him.
The other thing that's funny about Desean is that the announcers or when they're doing the highlights and they're talking about him, it's just matter of fact how they go, yeah, he's doing some amazing things, but we just don't know how long he's going to be around because he's got a history of not playing a full season. And it's just it's de facto with the press, with the media now. They just assume that he's not going to be there the full season.
Right. And anybody can Google his career and look at it and see that that's a fact. But he has now landed in a place that's perfect for him. He doesn't have to be the number one wideout. He doesn't have to play a lot of snaps. And he's gotten himself healthy enough to where his legs are good and he hasn't lost any speed at all.
That was the surprise to me. I didn't think
he's still fast.
Be able to maintain the speed. I thought he was losing a step or two at this point.
Oh, yeah. And with the receiving core that they have, they got Robert Woods, they got Cooper Kupp, who's having an amazing season so far, and they got a guy named Van Jefferson, who's pretty nice.
Tight ends are good.
Higbee, right? I believe it's Higbee. Bro, he doesn't even have to play. Desean, he doesn't even have to be a take the top off guy. They bring him in when they feel like this is a down and distance situation where we know we can beat them deep. Desean, go get him.
Hey, but guess what I saw? I saw Desean run a quick underneath pattern. They got the ball to him real fast, and he ran past about 3-4 people.
Yeah,
so, he is still being used for some underneath stuff.
Okay, you'll need 2 more haircuts by the time you see that again.
We'll see. Okay,
bro, come on, bro. I'm talking nice about him.
He actually,
I'm gonna give him but so much credit.
Running those patterns, and there he goes,
brother. I'm not gonna give him that much credit. They do that again, and somebody pops him, and he'll be out till week 12. Come on, man. You know his history. Be smart.
I didn't call the play. It's genius coach.
Right. Well, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the coach right now. Be smart. Sheesh.
All right.
Okay. So one of your division foes took a little bit of a beating there. They went down Seattle Seahawks lost to the Minnesota Vikings 30-17. Listen very carefully to this, especially the last part of it. This game was a disaster for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. He was mediocre for him. These stats might be pretty good for somebody else. But for him, 23-32, 298 yards. He only threw one touchdown. Chris Carson played pretty well. He had 20 carries. He took him for 80 yards. He scored a touchdown on the ground. And the touchdown run was a 30-yard run. So Chris Carson's playing really well. I have him on a lot of my fantasy teams. I really love Chris Carson. Both of those scores were in the first half, and the Seahawks never saw the end zone again. Unbelievable. The defense has been poor all season. So the last guy they wanted to see was the freaking red-hot Kirk Cousins, your favorite quarterback, your favorite whipping boy.
Hey, man, I had to say that Kirk Cousins was red hot.
Kirk Cousins is on fire, bro. He's on fire. He was as sharp as ever. He was 30 of 38.
Even when Kirk Cousins threw something as he was getting smacked upside the head, he threw it with enough touch to get it to the man, and he completed the pass. And a couple of times I'm like, I think he was a little lucky there, but it worked out real good. But other than that, he was on fire. He was getting it done. And that running game.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. 30 of 38 ain't luck, though. 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. None. He's got multiple touchdown passes in all 3 games so far this season, and he now has back-to-back 3 touchdown games. But wait, how about this? Star running back Dalvin Cook missed the game with an ankle injury. He was replaced by Alexander Madison. This happened last year also. Madison came in and played extremely well when Dalvin Cook was out. And this time he did it again. He exploded for 112 yards on 26 carries. And he caught 6 balls for another 59 yards. Here's the crazy thing. Remember we were talking about team philosophies with running backs?
Yeah.
The Vikings are the same way.
Single back.
When Dalvin Cook comes back, Alexander Madison goes to the bench. He will get maybe 3, 4, 5 carries a game. It's crazy. This guy could be starting for anybody. But the fact that he's with the Vikings, he's the ultimate insurance policy. For a great back as good as Dalvin Cook is, their offensive line may not pass block really well, although they're a lot better this year, but they sure do know how to run block, bro. They're built for run blocking. So Madison looking good. There's question as to whether Cook will be ready for this week. If he's not, they'll just plug Madison back in, and I expect him to have another big game. Adam Thielen stayed involved. He's having a really good season. He caught 6 of 9, and he scored a touchdown. And Justin Jefferson went off. He caught 9 balls on 11 targets, 118 yards. He also scored a touchdown.
I think he did the gritty.
And he probably did the gritty. Some people might say, well, the Seattle defense is kind of weak. They're having their problems. Yes, that is true. But Cousins has weapons galore, and he's using them. The Vikings are a problem right now. I can't wait for the Green Bay Minnesota game, which I haven't looked at the schedule, but that one's going to be intriguing. Next up, your boys, the San Francisco 49ers. They hosted the Green Bay Packers. It's a shame they couldn't have hosted the Green Bay Packers in week 1 when they didn't have their stuff together, because they sure do have it together now. This was a pretty wild game, actually, with a lot of back and forth. But if you really look at it, the difference between it being one way or the other, or, well, that's not the right way to say it. The big difference in this game, regardless of all the statistics and all that stuff, and I'm going to give you that, but the big difference in this game was defense. Your defense recorded 1 sack, They had no turnovers. They couldn't contain Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones. They had no clue for Devonte Adams. It was crazy. Those three guys alone completely had their way. Rodgers was 23 of 33, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. Half of his 23 completed passes and a touchdown, but half of his 23 completed passes, 12 of them went to one guy, Devonte Adams. People ask me, we had the debate, oh, who's the best receiver? People are like, Hopkins, Stephon Diggs. It's Devonte Adams. Did y'all not see what he did last year? This guy caught half of the completions thrown by Aaron Rodgers in one game. He can't be covered. He can't be covered. Aaron Jones was his usual steady self, 19 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Packers are starting
a nice face on the same side that Richard Sherman is no longer at. I was like,
oh yeah. Speaking of Richard Sherman, didn't he just sign with somebody?
He just signed with the Buccaneers.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Boy.
Yeah. But I was glad to hear, and we have this in our social media post, we'll talk about it later, that the Niners were in the list of teams that talked to him about playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense.
So that makes sense. What he thought was best, but at least we were talking to him. I said I wanted him back, so.
Right. Well, Tampa Bay needs him back. I don't know if he's going to be the answer.
Well, let me say this also. I told my son, Christopher's a Packer fan.
Right.
And when we talked about it, I said, my challenge with this is I don't think our D-backs are up to the level of the receivers that the Packers have. That was
not at all.
One of the scary things. And to give the ball back to Aaron with enough time for him to get within field goal range, and it was like, bam, bam, bam.
Exactly what I was getting ready to say. Despite all the problems that are keeping the running backs unhealthy, guys hurt all over the place, the Niners did get 31 yards rushing and a touchdown out of Trey Sermon, who's a rookie. I believe Trey Sermon will be better as the year goes on. They also used your boy Kyle Juszczyk. He handled most of the third down work. He had 14 yards rushing. He had 37 yards receiving. He did catch a touchdown pass. That touchdown pass, excuse me?
Juszczyk. And then that.
That TD catch came with under a minute left in the game, though. Here's the problem. Less than a minute left. Juszczyk comes up with a touchdown catch, and Aaron Rodgers still has time with less than a minute left in the game to drive the Packers down in the field goal range for Mason Crosby to seal the deal. Tough break, bro. Tough one. I don't know what to tell you.
No doubt. Okay.
All right. And last but not least, on Monday night, Philadelphia was all a Twitter ready for this game as they went down to Texas Stadium. No, I'm sorry, AT&T Stadium to play their hated rival, the Dallas Cowboys. I saw all kind of crazy predictions for this game. I saw people making crazy bets. Philadelphia fans really, really love their team. I think they got a little dose of reality here at least as far as the division is concerned. The Dallas Cowboys smacked them boys 41-21, and it wasn't even that close. I think the most egregious thing about the Eagles was the fact that they came out of the gate passing the ball. I don't know where they got this idea that they were just going to be able to just roll right out into the game and start throwing the ball. If I remember correctly, they won the toss and they deferred. And Dallas rolled down and scored first, right? Yes, right. And then they came out firing. I'm like, what whoa, what's going on? Well, I'm thinking to myself, if they're starting off the game like this, they're probably trying to like really impress upon the Cowboys that they believe that they can beat their secondary, that they can get downfield and move the ball quickly, and they can score just as well as the Cowboys can score, because that's what the Cowboys are known for. Unfortunately, the game got a little bit away from them. They never got to the running game. At a certain point, they weren't even able to establish a running game. There was times when they did score a touchdown and seemed to be somewhat within striking distance as far as how much time was left in the game. But again, they still never really even tried to run the ball. And in essence, they got killed. I mean, Jalen Hurts was 25 of 39 for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran 9 times for 35 yards, which if you're going to run, and he's a pretty good runner, on design runs, you got to do better than that. A lot of them were breaking the pocket and just trying to get first downs. His passing yardage was great for fantasy, but it happened mostly in garbage time in the game, so it didn't do anything for the Eagles. Dak Prescott, man, what can I say? If they keep this guy healthy, man, he's going nuts right now. Sizzling, 21 of 26. You heard that, right? That's 81% passing, bro. 81% completion percentage. 238 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have a fumble early that the Eagles recovered for a touchdown. I think it was Fletcher Cox. But other than that, he was flawless. No interceptions, no other turnovers. The Dallas running game has basically turned into a committee by now. They used to sort of kind of believe in the bell cow system, like some of these other offenses we talked about. But Zeke was looking like he was slowing down a little bit, and they have discovered that Tony Pollard is a really good back. So now they're using both of them, and it's got their offense looking even better than it was, even with as well as Dak's been playing. Zeke's been getting better and better every week. He ran 17 times for 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard had 11 carries for 60 yards. That's 28 carries for 155 yards. Whew. Man, Cowboys are going to be tough to beat. But that was the Monday night game.
Zeke looked determined, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Well, hey, let's face it. Sometimes some guys need a little fire lit under them. I try to keep remembering, and I remind other people too. I coach flag football. Most of the guys on my team are the same ages as these NFL guys. Early 20s to early 30s. They're all right in that area. So sometimes certain guys need a little fire lit under them. And when Tony Pollard started to work, and they started not only seeing that he could run the ball, but actually giving him carries, and he was producing with them, I think Zeke got a little nudge like, hey, I need to step it up. And he has. And that's a good thing. But they would be foolish not to continue to get Tony Pollard into the game. He's quick. He hits the holes fast. I see him go up the middle and break to the outside. He's leaving linebackers behind him. He's looking really good, man. Nice 1-2 punch. Dallas Cowboys are going to be a problem. Other than that, that's pretty much it for my review of week 3, and I'm looking forward to week 4.
That was awesome. Thanks. Make sure, everybody, that you get back to Ben and Barry on football on a weekly basis to get Ben's weekly review.